Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 344. I'm delighted to welcome onto the podcast today Jesus, Mateo. Jesus, how are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to have a nice chat with you guys. So really looking forward to this
Th-
while.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I appreciate it. I know this is off season for you at the minute, and you're back
Exactly.
home in Spain, not actually getting some sun, which is probably quite rare.
Exactly. Yeah. Destination wanted me to not miss too much of the UK weather and the UK feeling, so that's fine.
Exactly. It's just preparing you for coming back.
Exactly, 100%.
No, but I appreciate you giving up the time, mate, especially in the off season. There's loads of topics we're going to cover on this podcast today, but we always start the podcast in the same place, and that's about you as a practitioner. So give us a little bit of background on yourself, where you've been, the clubs you've been at, and also your current role as well.
Perfect. First of all, I would like to start again appreciating and giving thanks to you to having me here. It's a really nice pleasure to have this time together, and so we can touch base with some interesting topics. So again, I'm really happy to be here sharing this time. And as I say, I'm Jesus. I'm from Spain, and I'm having my 10th. I finished my 10th season working in the professional football business. I will say I started back in 2015 in the academy of Sevilla Football Club in Spain, where I started to take over the position as a sport injury rehab, where I took place of the sport injury rehab process of the academy players, collaborated with the first team as well, and then taking over the responsibilities of the planning the rehab, going through the return to play process to all the press, both in the academy and the women's side and the men's under 21s and under 19s and all the setup of the academy. And then, I last until 2022 when I had the opportunity to move to Sweden to Hammarby Football to take over the role of the women's team, where we had such a successful journey where we could achieve the Swedish league, the Swedish Cup with a really nice time with a really nice football environment. The technical staff, the group of players was great, and then it allowed me to have an opportunity to develop my own, let's say, methodology, let's say philosophy or way of thinking. Because at the minute you get, of course, when you are just in charge of the rehab side and this side of the business, you only get part of this process. So then I think I had that will to have to expand my knowledge, expand my experience, and I had a lot of desire of. I was always thinking. I always say that. If I was the physical coach, I would try to do this way. If I was the physical coach, I would like to try these kind of things, isn't it? So then Sweden and Hammarby and Stockholm in 2022 gave me that opportunity, and it was one of the experiences of my life, both professionally and personally. I really had a really nice time over there. And then, after 2 fantastic years, West Ham came to my side, and I really thought it was a really, really right step to take to get over the WSL, to have that opportunity, to have a proper department to work with, to try to work in the best women's league in the world, I will say, and enjoying now really, really, really much the time here. We had such a fantastic season so far in the last one, and then looking forward to keep developing myself as a practitioner alongside with, of course, with a lot of teammates and a lot of colleagues that they are also giving me the opportunity to share and learn or listen and discuss such interesting topics in the day by day, which is what I think it makes you get better, isn't it?
100%, 100%. Uh, just initially, obviously, starting your career in Spain, was it always your intention and your plan to move to different countries?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought I was at home because I'm really local. I'm really close to Sevilla and Andalusia, the south of Spain, and I will say was the biggest club in that region. So let's say I achieved when I got there the biggest role or the biggest club, at least in that region, compared with the having near home and sharing the social life, the personal life, and the professional life was a good mix, to be honest. And then also, of course, like promoting and grow and maturate within the club. But I also felt after a couple of years, like I felt the eager and the willingness to try new things, to try abroad, to try to challenge myself, to try to get out of the comfort zone, of course. And then, yeah, I got an interest and eager to develop myself and my skills and my knowledge within the women's side. After a couple of years in Sevilla, where I also had the opportunity to work a little bit more closer to the women's side, and yeah, I thought it was my place of being, like a place where I found interest, when I found that I could learn a lot and expand my knowledge a lot, and then I got really really interested, yes, to develop my side of things in that way, and then I thought Sweden was the right step at the moment, and I think yeah, I got right so far.
I think certainly on the women's side, the Swedish, Spanish, and English national teams are certainly some of the strongest out there, aren't they? So definitely some good nations to be exploring
Yeah.
and learning from. Just on that, what was the initial takeaways for yourself? Firstly, going into the role with Hammarby and the sort
Mhm.
of culture, the club, maybe the way they operated, but then the same question when you went into West Ham as well.
Yeah, I will say for me the best or the main takeaways that I always say that I have been lucky enough to work, for example, in the that's inherent to any country, but I think it has been given me a lot of background of like proper source of knowledge. I will say it has been to be part of the rehab side and yeah, training based on the injury mechanisms, injury processes, in the movement pattern. It has been giving me a lot of understanding of putting in place all the knowledge, all the bases into the yeah injury avoidance or injury prevention. Nowadays, we don't exactly know how to call it because it's a wide spectrum and a really holistic approach, but it has given me a lot in that sense. So I try to transfer this to from the injury perspective, injury player perspective to a collective and a team approach. So that was one of my first takeaways. And also when I got to Sweden, when I got such a like a professional country where like the society and the education background of the play gives them a lot of discipline, a lot of like work hard, and a lot of yeah understanding of the importance of the physical development and the importance of the invisible training. I would say like the take care of the rest of the patterns and the rest of the aspects of the performance, not only the 1 hour or the 2 hours that you are training, but the rest of 23 hours, let's say,
Mm.
like the recovery processes, the sleepy patterns, the food intakes, the nutrition, the body care. So it was really easy, I will say, to get on with that, because the play got a really really well understanding of, as I say, that the importance of that part of the business in order to perform properly on the pitch, and the eager to learn or the eager to work. That's one of the main takeaways from my time there.
Brilliant. Now, I'm keen to get into your philosophy and maybe some of the key lessons that you've learned and you apply with your players now. But what were some of the key roles, responsibilities across the three clubs? How much, obviously, you mentioned it at your first club that you had a few different roles. So obviously the
Yeah.
responsibilities are going to be slightly different. But were there some key differences between what you were actually in charge of between the three roles or three clubs?
Yeah, I will say has been like I think if I would have designed myself, it would have been perfect, because I have been like the right progress and the right moves from role and from countries and leagues and so on, but especially the roles. I will really like to mention the roles, because for example, as I said, in my first years in Sevilla, I was always taking care of the injury players. We give you a individual perspective of training, and individual perspective of progression, of training based on injury patterns, injury moments, training under pain, training without pain, taking care of the social component of the player, not only the physiological side of the athlete, which also understanding what a player feels when she or he is injured, what is the emotions, what are the feelings, what is the eager of the player to keep feeling, to keep developing. So that's giving you like a proper understanding of the player's individual. And then I think I was able to transfer this, as I say, to the team spectrum, and to understand how a player feels before getting injured, what's the takeaways of the on the injury prevention side, on the injury prevention spectrum, how you train the movement patterns, how you train the injury mechanisms prior to an injury incidents, and also understand what's the right way or what's the right timing of getting a player back to the team after getting an injury, right? So then I got the opportunity to do that in that first role in myself. So there was a mixed role between the strength and conditioning side of the team and the fitness rehab part of the medical department. And then it was kind of a way of linking that late stage of injury with the team demands, with the performance demands, and with the position demands, which were we try to enhance and to optimize that last phase of the injury process in order to increase the safety, to increase the key points reached before get back to the team training and get back to play and performance. And also now sorry, and nowadays in West Ham, being able to collaborate and create a holistic philosophy in a department, in a sports science department, along with the medical department. So it has been good to get the medical insights to put in together with the performance inside, and then in order to create a team thoughts and a team philosophy. And this is where we are now.
Brilliant. Because your role, I don't think we've mentioned it yet in the podcast, but your role currently at West Ham is head of sports science. That's correct, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, I'm in the head of sports science. I'm taking over the main responsibilities on design and deliver the physical development responsibilities alongside with more teammates, of course, in the department. We brought one more strength conditioning, delivering and helping in the day-by-day process, alongside with a PhD intern, which is also she's taking part of the, let's say, the data analysis, the takeaways of the KPI of the physical screen, internal and external load. So we got a really good help and really good shared duties, if that makes sense. I think we spend a little bit of time because we consider useful to actually set up properly the roles and the duties within every role. Like, okay, you're in charge of this, I will deliver this, please do get in charge of this. So we also got a proper understanding where we are and what is demand from each other, in order to have clear rules and clear roles and clear responsibility, which I think is also a really good starting point of a team, because at the end of the day, I think we are also a team on service of the team, if it's in it.
100%. Yeah, that ties in really nicely with the previous episode we recorded with the team at San Diego, and they talked about that. They were a brand new team. Well, the really important thing for them was having clear responsibilities and things that they're essentially, it comes down to them being in charge of. So I think that ties in really nicely. So do you think that's key for your career so far then, that having the rehab experience first, understanding and sort of upskilling yourself on the rehab side now feeds in really nicely to you being head of sports science, being able to collaborate with the medical side, but really understanding the rehab process? That's helped you a lot in your
100%. Yeah, 100%, because I think it's the natural steps in order to, for example, understand the player since the day one. What can the player do even though if she's injured, right? Because she still can do a lot of things, and I think that encourage the player and then reinforce the player to stay close to the team. I think it's one of the main process when a player gets injured. injured, because the player can feel apart from the team, like she's going through or he's going through a completely different process, completely different schedule, and then that can affect like to the mood of the player, and also of course it could be a negative impact in the process of the player, isn't it? So then in that matter, by having that clear process and that clear comprehensive and parallel process when the player is injured, you also offer the player the possibility, as I said, to stay close to the team, to optimize the process, training the non-injury parts, training a similar methodology that the team is going through. Let's say that player has a ankle injury or calf injury or even a knee injury. The player can be going through still like 80-90% of the, for example, upper body development within the session, and she's already following kind of really similar schedule from the team. So that helps to the player to stay close to the team, to stay close to the team topics, what's going on in the team, how's the team mood, how's the player topic, so then they don't feel apart when they are and they're injured. And of course, linking in with the phase of the injuries, of course, because for example, let's say that player has sustaining like a hamstring injury or like a patellar injury, quads injury, any muscle injury, and then we got like let's say like a landing prehab, like isometric hamstring prehab, which we will go through, I guess, later on in the episode. But I think, for example, if a player is now suffering the same injury and is in a similar phase of the rehab, why not she could go through the same prehab, because we are actually training the injury mechanisms, like the hamstring injury mechanisms, like the late swing phase, whatever we want to call it. It match with the player's needs in the rehab. So why don't we put together and we enhance the player process?
It's a really important thing that you brought up, I think, around the sort of social side and how you interact with injured players, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we can understand the programming, we can understand the sort of mechanism of the injury and where we want players to be, but essentially you're dealing with a person, aren't you?
100%, yeah.
A person
I
that
always
can't
say,
do they can't do what they want to do at that time. So it's quite
yeah.
challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I always used to say I don't like to put names in this example, because I don't want to hinge any player. But let's say when you are when you are training and coaching a player, you are training with the name in the back of the shirt, isn't it? So you are training with the player. And then
Yeah.
when you start to train with the injured player, all of a sudden you start to train the person,
Yeah.
like Ben or Jesus, or I just put myself. Imagine that I'm a player. When you are training a player, you're training Mateo in the back of the shirt, the striker or the midfielder that is playing for West Ham or wherever. But then when that player gets injured, you're actually training the person. You're actually training Jesus, like a guy that is abroad, is far away to their families, far away to their relative, which is struggling with whatever, like with sleeping disorders, eating disorder, because different patterns with the country region that is coming from. So it's a lot of things around that can affect to the player performance and to the player approach to the by day. And then it's also, of course, nice to have in consideration. And if by including the player in the team day by day and the team approach and in the team day by day, if that helps to encourage the player and to support a player, why don't we do it?
Love that. Love that. It's a great point. It's a very big question, a very broad question, but we can break it down.
Yeah.
Physical development, especially in women's football, what should it look like for you?
For me, I used to say like, well, I don't want to say like in that unpopular opinion or something, let's say, but I think we should take in consideration as well not only the gender difference, but also the gender similarities, or the sport similarities, because at the end of the day, there is a common, of course, biomechanical pattern. There are also common rules. There is a common rules, common demands, of course, in different results and in different qualities, and with a different tools, which is your own body. But at the end of the day, yeah, they play again 11 by 11. They get tackles. They get sprinting, they get deceleration, they get accelerations, they get people trying to tackle them, they get people trying to jump in a duel. So those are common patterns, I will say. So then I think those also need to be addressed, like with a proper, I will say, with a proper movement based approach. But of course, there is some similarities, there is some differences, and there is some particularities that I also need to take place. As for example, such menstrual cycle control, like even the pregnancy process. We have players that need to deal with the child care, with the pre-pregnancy, the return to play after pregnancies. So there is something, of course, difference that we need to address within the spectrum of the performance in the women's football, right? Then also, like, of course, like taking care of the difference between the nutrition. That menstrual cycle could lead to some alterations in the iron process, in the bleeding process, in the hormonal process, which also can be addressed by a proper nutrition philosophy, or like a different sleeping patterns, or sleeping health, let's say. So that's where I will say that that the difference should be taking place, and also really focusing the similarities and take proper, like, for example, GPS-3 results for the women's football. Strength training properly, like frequent, make it constant, making it stable, trying to cover all the pattern ball, like the basic patterns of movement of any sport athlete, but also training base of the football pattern, as I say, like short acceleration, linear speed, the curve sprint, landing mechanics, lateral landing, reacceleration, chain of direction optimization. That's inherent of the sport. That's not like a gender difference, isn't it? So then I think by approaching properly that side, we will be covering a lot of the parts of the women's football performance, and also, of course, addressing properly and specializing and in those particularities of the female athlete, of course.
I want to go into the gym periodization shortly, but just before we do that, just to give people an idea, because you've talked about the importance of the sort of holistic approach, and you've brought up obviously sleep and nutrition. Does nutrition fall under your guidance? Is that a key responsibility of yourself, or do you have other people that come and any nutritionists that come and take control of that?
Yeah, no, of course, we've got a nutritionist, a lead of nutrition, sport nutrition, which is also like in charge of the designing of course, taking the screening, the screening side of the athlete, checking the food intake habits, the recovery habits, the match day meals routines, the post match routines, food intake routines, and how do they approach a training day. How does it look a dish for a player? So then it's try to understand, of course, like properly the player, and also create guidelines in order to, like, some nutritional KPIs of the body composition of the players, in order to optimize and enhance, of course, the nutritional side of the nutritional provision of the player, but also putting together with the performance KPIs. We got sharing that data process where we got like a system of typical, like red lights, yellow lights, where even in the daily wellness and in the daily RP process, our sport nutritionist can also have access. And then, as we also have a huge advantage that I said in the last chat that I had about it. We also are lucky that our channel communication is as easy as lifting the head of the laptop, because we share room, all of us. So then we've got those facility of sharing process with the sport nutritioner. Yeah, please have a look at this, because this player has marked in the wellness like a poor recovery markers. Okay, it makes sense with the nutrition, so I will reinforce with that. So then in order to have the holistic approach of the player. That's the process, and I would say that we are really lucky to have that communication channel really quick and really fast.
That's another really important point, isn't it? Because that
100%.
there's a big difference between us having a conversation on Zoom like we're doing now, a conversation
Yeah,
in
exactly.
person, but also a conversation maybe over message or email. They're very different conversations, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. And
I
also
think
you
that's
don't
a
need to
great
wait.
point.
Yeah. You don't need to wait for an email. You don't need to wait for a certain time of the day to get information.
Yeah.
We used to have we will go through afterwards, but yeah, we have like every morning, a wellness meeting where we analyze, and when we are all are attending to that meeting, when we analyze the wellness, first of all, the way, how does the team status looks like. Okay, those are the 5, 6 players that they have marked lower values in, like in muscle soreness, in sleep quality, in mental mood, in recovery, and also like individual analysis afterwards. We have also like individual trends, individual patterns, which we also consider really useful, because we actually can see if there is something that hasn't come just from one day, isn't it? So then if it, okay, this player has been struggling the last 10 days with the sleep quality, we might need a conversation, we might need a deeper check to see what's going on with the player. So then also we try to have, first, as we used to say, wellness is just a number score, but then after there is a conversation with the person, which actually gives you like, okay, what's going on, what's actually going on. And then it's also, of course, gives you a wider understanding to the players in order at the end of the day, in order to help them, which is all what we want in those in the sport performance and medical department.
Just out of interest, in terms of the sleep, how do you go about monitoring that? Is that like your whoops, your aura rings, the players tend to wear those, or is it more of a questionnaire conversations? I know you said about conversations coming off the back of the data, but
Yeah.
how do you monitor?
Normally, we just have so far like a common pattern, because at the end they are different athletes, they are different person, and we are quite open to hear if they have a different process, or a different checking or tracking system of their own qualities. As for example, as you mentioned, some of the play know whether they already have the goop or any other source of tracking sleep quality, menstrual cycle as well. And we are quite open to hear what they say, but also like we have like a common team following pattern, which also is yeah, like a questionnaire where they feel how is your how do you consider your sleep qualities from 1 to 5, being 1 the worst, being 5 the best, and also if there is something that is being marked as a poor uh, marker, you have the possibility to have a like a blank space where you also we always used to say to the players, feel free to share with us anything that you consider can be useful for us to know before training, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. In order to know, maybe there is something that I can be tagged with a number, but it actually can be addressed by a conversation. And most of the time, we encourage the players to use their voice properly to help us to understand them. Sometimes a conversation gives you way more than number 3, or a yellow yellow square, or a green square, or number 5, isn't it? So then this is how we try to address those kind of things around the performance side.
Yeah, I think that's important because I think majority of players, if they mark a poor sleep, or especially if you do it over a consistent basis, a lot of the time they're going to be able to answer the reason why, aren't they? You mentioned
Exactly,
before
yeah.
about children. There might be like breakups with partners or whatever it is, like higher stress levels. But a lot of the
Yeah.
time, as long as they've got the relationship with you, they're probably going to bring up what the problem is, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And we don't ask, of course, like to share everything that's going on in their life if they are not comfortable with it, isn't it? So then all what we want to know is something around you that is bothering you in order to perform properly. Yes, not. There is any way that we can help to supporting you in the day by day in here. You need a thorough conversation with I don't know, with the player care, with any other department within the club, because I also think that it's important that the player feels no matter the gender. I'm not talking just about women football now. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about of course, sporting athlete overall. They need to feel support around themselves in order to perform. So then sometimes that conversation that open up, because sometimes, as we say, we can be asking for such a detailed recovery protocol at home. You usually spend 1 hour in here, 1 hour in the stretching, having some meditation, wearing your compression boots, compression socks, but they need to deal with taking the children out of the school, giving to swimming, giving to music, giving to football. So it's a really hard process that we are not taking in consideration, or we actually should take in consideration in order to understand the player well-being.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is taking their current situation, isn't it? And then trying
Exactly,
to
100%.
enhance that rather than
100%.
saying, this is our blueprint, there you go, apply it to you, and then
Exactly.
do it.
Exactly. Instead of please just stuck in this process because it's our and it's in the one that we believe at.
Yeah.
Better to say, okay, how does your life look like in your day by day, and then we try to build around the best supporting process and supporting tools to you in order to enhance and to improve of course your own life and your life and your performance in the time that you are with us in here.
Yeah, brilliant. I'd mentioned before, we're currently, as we record this, we're off season. We're going to be heading into pre-season. A lot of coaches are going to be heading into pre-season. Can we touch on your approach to periodization in the gym, but take from the pre-season period and then giving a little bit of an outline on what that looks like in season as well?
Okay. Yeah, normally we start like the pre-season with let's say with a learning process, I will say. And a first part where we will actually go through the movement patterns, the coaching guideline, the coaching cues as well, because I think it's really important for the players to understand how we coach as a coaches, because maybe they might be coming from different backgrounds, different ways of thinking, different philosophies, whether they have been, I don't know, in America, in Spain, in Sweden, in Germany, in Italy, any country in the world, and of course England in my case. And we actually need to try to follow through like a common pattern. I will say I will give really high importance to the queuing process and the coaching side of things, because as soon as they start to hear in the guidelines, how we train, how does it look the different days of the week in our training model, the sooner they start to get used to that, the better will be for the young development. Because okay, we've got today like a high-speed running session, so then we know that today in the prehab we're gonna hit some heavy isos, both in the calf tendon, in the upside hamstring tendon, both in the patellar, got ankle stiffness, or today's if we got let's say a match day -4, which is used to be our intensive day, which a bunch of acceleration, deceleration, change of direction, small spaces, and so on. So they will know right away that we will touch base in those landing patterns, movement mechanics patterns, such first steps in acceleration, lateral acceleration, lateral landing, re-acceleration, frontal landing on frontal acceleration to accelerate to the new direction. Those are patterns that we are already training since the day one in the preseason. So this is a time that we use to take advantage of in order for the players to get through the process. And also, of course, we used to like to start in the preseason with isometric exposure in the first 2-3 weeks in order to enhance those first of soreness that they can come with. We can come along with that first running exposure in the preseason when they haven't been used to train with the football boots in the grass. They have been training rather than in the treadmills, in the streets, on the beach. So then the surface has changed. So in order to enhance and try to avoid or try to decrease as much as possible that possible soreness processes, we try to go through that isometric spectrum. That's for 2-3 weeks in different angles, different positions, different specific position for both again, like groin, patellar tendon, calf tendon, Achilles, hamstring, all of the rectus femoris. Even as soon as they start to striking the ball, this is also quite important, because obviously they haven't been exposed, or they haven't used to being exposed to match many ball striking mechanism within the off-season period. So that's something that we try to cover as well as soon as possible in the preseason with a proper gym support, as we used to like to call it. It's like a gym support phase. And then obviously in the season phase, if we start to touch base in that periodization, we start with, for example, let's say with a recovery day, whether it's match day +1 or match day +2. In my career, I have been going through different approaches. I have been working as a recovery day, match day +1, and I have been working as a recovery day, the +2. Of course, on the pitch will look a little bit different because you might need players totally off fit if there is a +1, but you might want to bring that to a slow and to a really low load training for the players getting more playing time if it's a match day +2, and or then modify in regards of the coaching staff needs or the coaching staff necessities and tactical, of course, behaviors and patterns to train. But also is the data we use to train and develop the upper body optimization. Of course, the forces, the core forces implicated in the mechanisms of football. Let's say the core stiffness, lateral force production, upper body like vertical pull, vertical push, horizontal push, horizontal pulls. So then is the data that we use throughout the week to enhance that pattern. We have the possibility of doing that. And also, for example, if we think about like as I say, in a kind of training, whether it's match day -4, match day -3 in all the different approaches, we used to train, as I say, like first of all, we will go through after how we set up the whole prehab timing, but also in the team prehab, we used to incorporate like landing mechanics, horizontal landing mechanics, lateral landing mechanics, then acceleration development, lateral acceleration, back pedal movements, again, deceleration, and some eccentric pre-activation. And also at the end of the training, we use one of the sessions that I used to like to call it on-field football strength session, let's say, when we actually train and we actually try to overload those football movement patterns, such, again, 10 meters acceleration, flying sprint. Those are loaded by, let's say, sleds, weight vest. We used to like as well, like water bags, aqua bags, which gives them a little bit of uncertain movement and a little bit unpredicted bothering or instability that then that enhance or try to go through to the body's reorganization within the movement to try to train that the process of repetition without repetition. We might perform 3 repetitions of the same pattern, but they are different because they have been come with different reorganization with the instability of the provided by the external instrument. And that's been approached normally on the pitch or in the dome or like in a wider space at the end, which normally used to be the pitch. And then also like this, let's say the extensive day when we actually try to expose to the player to max speed training, more high speed running, and then playing bigger spaces and so on. This is where we actually go through we used to call it the basic lifting session. We try to go through like common movement patterns such as squats, such as Bulgarian, knee dominance, hip dominant, front chain, posterior chain, and loaded jumps, hip thrusts, RDLs, hip clean plus step ups. So then we actually try to go through, of course, like more common movement pattern and also individualized by velocity based training, where we actually try to individualize the load in order to have the proper rate of force development scores. And this is how we actually individualize, and also the data we use as well to include in those sessions a bit of the IDP plan, the individual development plan, coming from the medical check, the previous injury recording history, the individual need as a player. Maybe, let's say, maybe a wide player needs to develop more the ankle stiffness because they cover a lot of straight distances and so on. And then, of course, this is when we address the goalkeeper specific training, when they need to go through different, like, let's say, core and shoulder connection patterns to in order to save balls, to train the dives, to train the lateral jumps, to train the set position and the reacceleration position. This is also something that has to be addressed a little bit different within the on-field players. That's also normally the common pattern is those days. The match day minus shoe, I think, is always the most the date where we used to struggle more as a practitioners. I have been in environments when we actually have training match day minus shoe. Now in environments we actually have that match day minus shoe as a day off. So at the end of the day, I think you need to be a little bit adaptive in that matter and build the best structure around. And then we used to have nowadays we used to have off in that day, and then the match day minus one again, a little exposure, a little bit of decision making, quick decision making patterns, quick reaction drills, quick take of decision optimization. And then also we used to perform like a PAP session at the end of the training, like pre-game session. We used to do like a really low volume, high load, and in order to enhance that power or that post-activation potentiation mechanisms, in order, of course, to benefit to the game performance. I think I've been going through more or less like how a week look like in our own philosophy, whether it's in my current club or like in my different approaches. Of course, with the difference between countries, philosophies, head coach philosophy, it also can be changing within the same club and different coaching staff. So at the end, as I say, it's a matter of being adaptive.
And would the key differences from head coach to head coach be potentially the days off that they prescribe, and then you look at that and you just adapt your model accordingly? Or is there anything? Obviously, there's the style of play of the head coach as well. Is there anything else that sort of jumps out that means you need to adapt your approach?
Yeah, I will say, of course, the days off or the weekly periodization is one. I will say also the league and the season calendar gives you a lot as well. Because, for example, one of the difference that I found with England without the other countries in England is some more normally fixed game dates. Normally it's Sundays, sometimes off the TV Saturdays, but normally it's quite organized in that sense, in the matter of Sunday to Sunday structure or 1 week games. Of course, when we start like the, let's say, Conti Cup or this 7-Eleven, the Subway Cup, sorry, or like the FAI Cup, or like any kind of cups that makes you, or potentially, of course, hopefully Champions League at some point, of course, it needs to be addressed different. Of course, at the end of the day, it's something that guides you through the weekly periodization. But I will say that's one of the main difference when the coaches want the week look like or the days off look like. And also, of course, as a professional, as a practitioner, you have also your own opinions and your own thoughts, and then you're just giving them in order to help or listen. That's my opinion. That's how I think the weeks will look like. But then, or at least this is my point of view. If this is how we want the week to look like, let me adapt this bit here, this bit here, this bit here, so we can actually train in that way. Because at the end, in my experience, I have been working in like such different training patterns, and we have been successful, or they have worked in both sides. So then I will say that is actually only a proper good one weekly periodization. Of course, I will have things that I will do, or things that I will try to make the coaching staff to think different. But normally it's more about how you adapt to the coaching staff rather than how you make the coaching staff to adapt to you, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And I think that's a really important point for the listeners, isn't it? That you need
100%.
that ability to adapt to different styles. Because
100%.
essentially, if you're going to work at first team level, there's going to be changes at some point, isn't there? Whether it's you change
100%.
clubs
And
or
also, yeah.
that head
So
coach leaving, different people
100%,
in.
yeah. And also one that I'm going to mention as well is a little bit of the drill design, which is also, I think, is quite important. Like how the coaches want to look like. We go from small spaces to bigger spaces, or we train all the smaller spaces situation in one day, and then all the bigger spaces situation in one day. That's also make the training load, the daily training load look different, isn't it? So then it's also a matter to study and adapt the implications of the potential responses to the player to play this big in a certain amount of time and minutes, and player by size, or like the density of the drill, how many players per square meters are we training. And as you say, this is something that is inherent to the sport. It's not only women's side, it's also football overall, and also of course in women's football it needs to be addressed properly as well. That's why I started mentioning it's also like a similarity between genders, and it's also that it cannot be forgotten, and it cannot be taken away of the women's football spectrum. Uh, yeah, definitely, it's also a different approach from the coaches that drill designs approach, how they want to look like the tactical trainings. They want stops between exercises. They want statical drills when they actually go through, like the tactical patterns. There are like different walkthroughs of tactical behavior, like attacking patterns, set plays. So there's something that it varies between coaching staffs. So it's something, of course, that needs to be addressed properly from a physical perspective.
100%. I'm really keen to hear your response to this because obviously someone that's planning for next season, head of sports science position. We spoke about this on the podcast, but we've also talked about it at our recent conference is around research in women's football and maybe some areas of research that you found beneficial within your role, the roles being in, but also what are some areas that you feel needs more focus at the minute to be applied into your position?
Yeah, I will say, well, like an easy answer, I will say, but I will explain myself properly. Everything needs to be, of course, developed and enhanced. Because, for example, there is that side of the women's football performance which need to be addressed properly, like to incorporate proper research, proper specialists in, let's say, the effects of the menstrual cycle in the sport performance environment, to the athlete, to the team, how the different approaches, for example, to the pelvic floor training, the place at the end of the day. We have trainings coming back from pregnancy. We have players coming back from a first child, from a second child. So also need to have a specialist with then a specialized research. It doesn't matter, of course, that need to take place, and with the time, more and more research and the quality of the research need to be enhanced, of course, in that side. That comes along with the rest of the women's health specialism research, such the sleeping hygiene, the sleeping habits, better said, the nutrition side, how this holistic approach affect to the women's athlete that need to be addressed properly. And also, of course, at the other side of the coin, let's say, it need to be raised the amount of research in the football side, like both in the biomechanical patterns, if there is some difference that actually uh, take place in the football patterns, or maybe not. For example, let's say we used to say like the Q angle is different, of course, in the women respect. In regard to the male counterparts, but it's something that we cannot train. We cannot train the Q angle, but we can train, of course, like the dynamic valgus. We can train the trunk stiffness, the ankle stiffness, the hamstring and quadriceps ratio. We can make it stronger in that way. We need to improve. We need to train and research the effects of the the football movement patterns training process, how are the implications in the women's athlete. That's something that I need to erase as well. And also at the end, as I mentioned before, there is a bunch of studies how this side by side game in the 40 yard by 30 yard, how does the effects on the RSA capabilities of the male players, how are the Premier League demands of the games, how many meters per minute male player in the Premier League covers. That need to be, of course, like, how does it look the WSL? How does it look the Women's Spanish League? How does it look the Women's World Cup, the Women's Champions League? Because we need to actually know the benchmarks. How does it look like a 30-15 test? I make it up. Or a yo-yo test, like a 30, let's say a 30-15 test in 5 different women's elite leagues. How does it look like? What's the highest score in the women's side? What's the lowest score, medium score? How does it look like IMTP, or isometric testing pool? Like, how does it look like running specific iso push, running specific knee push, like those kind of profiling, neuromuscular profiling. And so how does it look in the elite women's side? That's also need to erase, because we've got this like a bunch of data in the men's side, also need to be enhanced in the women's side, for the sake of the practitioners and the player to have an improvement in the knowledge, to have an improvement in the data, and to be more accurate at the end of the day. So then I think this is how, in my humble opinion, how it should look like, the guidelines of the research in the women football and in the women's sport overall, I will say.
No, that's brilliant. I think that ties in with a lot of people's perspectives, that we just need to collect more and sort of collaborate on collecting this research and data, and hopefully in the next few years it'll all be padded out with extra work that we can sort of apply in practice as well, isn't it? But
100%.
Jesus, I really appreciate you coming on. This is absolutely flown, but I feel like we have covered quite a few of the topics, as much as we could have probably done episodes on some of these individual topics alone. So I think you've given some really good detail in such a short amount of time on the approach that you take,
Nice.
and also that is going on at the club at the minute. So I really appreciate that. If people have got questions, if they want to reach out to you, is there anywhere particularly that you direct them?
Yeah, I will say like my LinkedIn account, which is my name, Jesus Mateo Cortes. And also I've got like an Instagram account, that's everybody else, that they can drop a line, they can give me a shout, and I will be happy to share and so on. It's also my name, like Jesus Mateo RHB. It's like my account of social media, and it's something that I'm quite open to, of course, as much as I can, and as much as I'm allowed to, to share knowledge with some colleagues, hear any other thoughts, hear any other disagreements. Of course, people that think, listen, mate, I hear you, and I think you're totally wrong, or like I differ with you in that one. So I'm really happy to keep learning from as many people as possible. Of course, I think it's the only way to get better ourselves and to make our environment better at the end. And again, I really like to thank you again to welcoming me in here. And I hope I haven't been bored, or I haven't been flying around in different topics. But again, I really felt really useful time, and really nice time here.
Brilliant, Jesus. Well, yeah, thank you very much for your time, mate, and all the best as well going into next season.
Thank you very much, and then I will be really happy to keep in touch with all of you guys. And here you can find me. You know where you can find me now.